Well, good evening, everybody. It's been a while since I've done one of my lessons from the front porch, but tonight, here I am. I'm sorry that I'm not with you here today. I was really hoping to, but, as you know, I've been sick and not feeling well. The sinus infection, hopefully the sinus infection is kind of really kicking my tail right now, but I'm feeling better, much better. Yesterday I had a little bit of a scare with my breathing a little bit, but and so I kind of wanted to go get a COVID test, and so I got a COVID test. The quick test came back negative, and I'm waiting for the other test to come back, so I'm under quarantine right now. I'm not supposed to be around people. So hopefully that'll come back negative here in the day, and I'll be with you guys on Sunday. But I appreciate Randall. He did a great job on Sunday. I was out in the parking lot with the Amen corner out there, and just Randall did a great job with that, and so thank you, Randall, for that. Sunday morning and Sunday night on a very short notice, so thank you, Randall. Hope he's doing well, recovering. He had carpal tunnel surgery today on his hand, and so I hope he's doing well. But Randall, thank you. Well, tonight I was watching the other day, I was watching some things, and I was watching a guy do like tricks, like dice tricks and card tricks, and really they were a bunch of carnival tricks. And what I saw was, it just blew my mind. Because I was watching him and I saw him do some things, and when I saw him do, even though I saw it with my eyes, I could not believe what he was doing. It was just absolutely amazing. It kind of brought me back to the days where, have you ever done something like this? Like, hey, look, I got a rubber pencil. Look at the rubber pencil. Look at that. Man, it's going up, it's a rubber pencil. That's so cool. Well, we all know, not a rubber pencil. Okay, there's not a rubber pencil. But our eyes played a trick on us. We sometimes can be tricked by what we see by our own eyes. And you may say, but wait a second, what we see with our own eyes, isn't that reality? Isn't that truth right there, what we see with our eyes? And there's a word for what we see with our eyes, what we hear with our ears, and what we feel and stuff like that. And that's called empirical evidence. Empirical evidence. And tonight I want us to look and to see that there are two different truths and reality at play in our world each and every day. There's two different that are out there, because sometimes, one of the truths can be fooled. One of the truths is empirical truth. What we see, what we smell, what we taste, things like that. That's empirical truth. But the other one is a kingdom truth. And what I mean by kingdom truth is the truth that goes deeper than just what our eyes see and what our ears hear. It is a truth that goes deeper in our lives, because we all know, we've saw with a pencil, that empirical truth can be fooled. I mean, just look at me. I mean, you look at me and you say, "Oh, Opie, you're dressed so nice here tonight. You have your collared shirt. You look nice and everything like that." Here's the reality, okay? Your eyes can be deceiving, because I'm wearing gym shorts here and I'm barefooted here tonight. Kind of reminds me of like anchors, news anchors or something like that. Under that desk they're wearing shorts or something like that. So we understand that empirical truth can be maybe misleading or can be tricked very easily in our lives. So there has to be something deeper in our lives. And so tonight, the place I want you, if you have your Bibles, open up to Numbers. Numbers chapter 13 and 14. Both those chapters we'll be looking at. It's a story from the exile that we're very familiar with. It's a story about a man that stood up for God's truth. Okay, not the empirical evidence, but God's truth. And he stood up in such a great way that I named my son after him. You may say, "Ooh, are we going to be learning about Josiah?" No, it's not Josiah tonight. It's Caleb. Tonight I want us to look at the story of the spies going into Canaan. And so, to look at this, we won't start at the very beginning of chapter 13 here tonight. We're actually going to skip up to verse 17 here tonight. Well, to see the story, the backstory, of the spies going into Canaan. And it sounds like spies, like, ooh, spies. All it was Moses gathered together the leaders from the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, and so each tribe had one of its leaders go into the land to explore. They were to go out and to explore the land, to see what the land was like. How was it? Was it big? Was it small? Was it good? Was it all this stuff? And we see in verse 17, here in chapter 13, verse 17, it says, when Moses sent them to explore Canaan, he said, go up through the Negev into the hill country, see what the land is like, and whether the people who live there are strong or weak, few or many. What kind of land do they live in? Is it good or bad? And what kind of towns do they live in? Are they unwalled or fortified? How is the soil? Is it fertile or poor? Are there trees in it or not? Do your best to bring back some of the fruits of the land. It was the season for the first ripe grapes to be there. And so we notice here that Moses wasn't sending them out to see if they should go. Okay, this group that was sent out, it wasn't a group to see, should we go into this land or should we not? It was just a way to explore and to see what they were up against. And, you may say, that's a lack of faith right there by Moses. I don't think it's a lack of faith. I think in Scripture we see a couple of different times that it talks about how if you're going into battle, you need to measure your opponent. If you're going to do something, if you're going to build, make sure you have enough material to do it or you're going to be called a fool. And so Moses was just kind of wanting to get some eyes on the ground and to see what they were up against there going into the land. And so in verse 21, this is what they did. So they went up and explored the land from the desert of Zin and as far as Rehob toward Lebo Hamath. And they went up through the Negev and came to Hebron, where Anamin and Sheshaiah and Telemaiah and the descendants of Anak lived. Hebron was built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt. And when they reached the valley of Eshcol, they cut off a branch bearing a single cluster of grapes. 2 of them carried on a pole between them, along with some pomegranates and figs. That place was called the Valley of Eshcol because of the cluster of grapes the Israelites cut off there. And at the end of the 40 days, they returned from exploring the land. We see here the picture of what we always see when we see a picture of them exploring Canaan is the big pole that 2 of them are carrying with a big thing of grapes on it and other stuff that they have on this pole here. And we see that. So after 40 days, they come back to the people. And this is what they said in verse 26. They came back to Moses and Aaron and the whole Israelite community at Kadesh in the desert of Paran. There they reported to them, to the whole assembly, and showed them the fruits of the land. They gave Moses this account. Listen, this is what they said. We went into the land in which you sent us, and it does flow with milk and honey. Here is its fruits. They came back and they let them know, listen, Moses, Aaron, all of Israel, this land is flowing with milk and honey. This is an amazing piece of property. It has everything that we need. Just look here. This is the first fruits of the area. Check this out. It is absolutely amazing. And so they went and they checked this place out and they saw that it was good and they saw the resources and they were good. It was a land flowing with milk and honey. It was a land that looked like it'd be a place that God would send them to. It had everything that they needed. It was all good. But now in every situation, there's always someone, no matter how good it is, they'll always come up and say, but, Listen to verse 28. But the people who live there are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. We even saw descendants of Anak there, and the Amalekites lived in the Negev, the Hittites, the Jebusites, the Amorites lived in the hill country, and the Canaanites lived near the sea and along the Jordan. Oh my goodness, there's all these people. So many people live there, and they're all big and mean and ugly and nasty, and man, the land is great, don't get me wrong, it's fantastic. But the people that live there, There's a lot of people, and their cities are fortified. The cities have walls, and it won't be easy. And this group started to tell the people what they saw. They started to tell about the fortified cities and the people that lived there. But listen, verse 30, listen, see what Caleb said. Then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, "We should go and take possession of this land, for we can certainly do it." Wait, did these two people go and look at the same land? Did these two people go and look at the same place? I mean, here the group is saying that these people are mean, nasty, and we shouldn't go there. And Caleb and Joshua stand up and they say, let's go. Let's get in there. Let's do this. So what is the difference? What's the difference between those two people? And I think the difference is the lens of truth that they see things through. The group of leaders from the other tribes saw the reality or truth through empirical evidence. They saw how big the people were. They saw how mean they were. They saw how difficult the fortified cities would be. They looked and they heard and they made their choices based on what they saw with their eyes. But here's the problem. We know that what we see with our eyes can be deceiving sometimes, right? I mean, look at this balloon. This is a balloon that is a punching bag. That one of my kids has, you know, and you look at it, and it's a big, I mean, it covers my whole face, my head, my neck, everything like that. I mean, it's a big balloon, right? But let me show you something real quick here about this big balloon. It's not real big, is it? It looked big, right? I mean, when I showed it to you first, you're like, man, that's a big balloon. That covered your whole face. Look at it. You can see, I mean, it doesn't cover very much at all anymore. Because sometimes what we see, sometimes the circumstances, sometimes the people in front of us, sometimes the things that we're up against in our life may seem real big to the empirical evidence. You see, Caleb saw the truth not from empirical and what he saw, but he saw it from the kingdom truth. Not about what was in front of him, but what was behind him. And he knew that the God that was behind him was bigger than any city, was stronger than any man that they would face in this land of Canaan. When the people started to convince Moses and Aaron to rethink, this, Joshua and Caleb stood up. In chapter 14, verse 5, it says this: "Then Moses and Aaron fell face down in front of the whole Israelite assembly gathered there. Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, who were among those who explored the land, tore their clothes and said to the entire Israelite assembly, 'The land we passed through and explored is exceedingly good. If the Lord is pleased with us, He will lead us into the land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and will give it to us. Only do not rebel against the Lord, and do not be afraid of the people of the land, because we will devour them. Their protection is gone, but the Lord is with us. Do not be afraid of them.'" Tonight, I want you to understand, and I want you to know how to live here tonight. I want us to be able to live by kingdom wisdom, by kingdom truth, by kingdom reality. Because this is different than empirical truth. Kingdom reality says that we are called to things in our life, and sometimes those things are hard. And sometimes those things make us uncomfortable. And sometimes those things will just not be fun in our lives. And to that I say, you know what? Tough. You may say, "Oh man, Opie, that's terrible. I was hoping to, get a little pick-me-up." No, the pick-me-up tonight is this. It's not that you're going to be called to something easy. Okay, when God calls and tells us to evangelize the world, that's not easy, but that's what we're called to do. When we are called to have conversations about Jesus with our neighbors, that's not going to be easy and comfortable, but that's what we're called to do. When God tells us to forgive someone who has hurt us, and to love them instead of hating them. That's not going to be easy, but that's what we're called to. And the way that we do it and the way that we conquer these things in our life is not by looking at the circumstances and saying, oh man, they're so big and they're so hard and they're so uncomfortable, but looking at them through kingdom truth and saying, if God's called me to it, He's going to help me. He's going to be walking there with me, beside me. He's going to fight for me. That's what Caleb understood. Caleb and Joshua understood. They understood that this isn't about what we see with our eyes. It's about what we have in our hearts. It's not about who's in front of us, but it's who's got our back. And God has our back in every situation that He's called us to. Circumstances may be huge, but God is bigger. Now, I know that sounds like a very elementary truth in our lives, that God is bigger than the boogeyman. I think that's what the cartoon says. But it's the truth. God is bigger than any circumstance. God is bigger than anything that we'll go through. And that's who has our back. So I just challenge us here tonight to live our lives not just by what the circumstances are in front of us, but live our lives knowing that we have the biggest, strongest, most amazing, most loving, most forgiving, most awesome, in every sense of the way, God behind us. And that's how we are to live here today. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm going to ask somebody to pray here tonight. Pray tonight. Larry Evans, if you're here tonight, I'd love for you to pray. But if he's not, someone else can jump up and pray and dismiss us here tonight. But just know I love you guys. Can't wait to be back with you guys. Seriously, I'm ready to kick this thing and be back with you guys. Have a great night. Bye-bye. God bless.